Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to this video, Taking Flight with me, Jo, Recreate Ireland and DLR County Council. In this video, we are going to be looking at themes such as the natural landscape of the Irish woodland, biodiversity and bird life, and how we can combine exploring our natural world with our goals of reuse and repurposing. This video will be divided into 6 little parts, which will include collecting materials with me and 4 ideas around making something. I will be giving you starting points and ideas to get those wonderful creative brains going, and for you to be able to make your own creations all around our central theme, taking flight. But first, I'm going to invite you to get curious about the world around you and collect your own materials. What kinds of things can you collect and find in nature? We invite you to look closer at your own habitat. What materials could we use to make something from what we already have around us? I took my camera to a local forest in the rain to collect materials. I gathered my own natural items, which I'm going to share with you during a video right now. Welcome back. As you can see, I had a great time collecting all sorts of different things, which I'm actually currently showcasing right behind me here. I have a big, wonderful stick. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but these things always come to you when you're thinking about them for a little bit longer. I have some beautiful moss right here. There's something so lovely about moss and ferns, which when I picked them up, I felt like they were almost quite feathery, which is very in keeping with today's theme of taking flight. I have some sticks, I have a large stone, I have some ivy. Now, I didn't take a huge amount of stuff, but even these small items give me so much inspiration. So these are the items that I collected from Mother Nature, from the big wide world, and I'm going to pair them and combine them with stuff that I found at home that I find useful and that will hopefully give you some inspiration for what you could create as well. So I have a large plastic bottle, and I'm going to go through these very, very quickly because it's just a quick snippet. Some of this plastic packaging, which I feel the transparency is really lovely and almost like veins, maybe the veins of wings or veins of a leaf potentially. I have some cardboard. Now, I'm not going to be using all of these things, but I just wanted to showcase the different items and things that you might look at in a slightly different way when you're popping things into the recycling or having a rummage around in the recycling. These I really like because they have the hexagonal kind of shape on them, almost like a honeycomb that you can see, and then the side of them is lovely as well. Maybe something like a bug hotel might be kind of cool. I have some egg boxes. We're going to go through this nice and quickly. The toilet roll. 2 different types of toilet roll there that fit quite snugly into each other. I have newspaper, always handy for building up stuff. I have plenty of cardboard. I have some leftover tissue or paper packaging, nice and crunchy in the microphone. I have plenty of paper packaging actually. I have a little bottle. Oh, you're so cute. I have a little dish, little plastic dish. some smaller bottles as well. I just really like the size of these, and they're kind of nice to hold, and they're plain as well, plain for decorating. And then I couldn't help but pop this in as well. I thought this might be a wonderful way of, when you're collecting your things from outdoors in nature, whether they be stones or pine cones or sticks, pop them into this little box. And I'm going to call this my nature investigation table, a bit like a large version of those little bug microscopes that you might look into. And you could keep this somewhere for inspiration, or maybe you might start off your own worm farm or something like that. Actually, that's a point. I must put that on my to-do list. So what else do we have? I have lots of paper, I have a little bit of ribbon, and lots of cardboard. And as you can see, I spent 30 seconds rummaging through the recycling, and this is what I came up with. So imagine if you're thinking about these ideas for a little bit longer, what you might collect. So in the next part of our video, I'm going to rejig this a little bit, and in the next part, I am going to start making things. And we have 4 different ideas for you, small little starting points where you can take those ideas and run with them using your own beautiful creative minds that you have. So I'll talk to you in 1 second. Okay, so we're all set up now, ready to go. You might have pressed pause momentarily to go and collect your own bits and pieces, or what you might do is watch this video all the way through to the end, let those ideas ferment and percolate in your brains, and then come back to the video again with all your materials gathered. So take your time, collect good things, primo things, and then we're going to get making. So what I'm going to do now is it's taking flight, so we need to make a bird. And I don't know if you have noticed the birds have started singing again as our season starts to change. Things are looking a little bit brighter outside, which is wonderful. And I know myself, I have definitely noticed the songs of the birds, and that there is, like, things are coming to life, which is so exciting. So what I have collected here, so you might need these things as well. So I've got a massive pair of scissors. Obviously you don't need to have them as big as these, but I like these scissors because they are strong, but you might have some smaller ones. I have a couple of marker pens. You can have pencils, pens, colouring pencils, whatever, something to make a mark with. I've also kept near me the couple of toilet rolls, a little plastic drinks bottle, the 2 little white ones, and then I also have some different papers and then Pritt stick as well. So I am going to make a very simple bird construction, and then you can do whichever you please with this. This might be just a starting point for you. So it's going to be 2 pieces. It's going to be flat, okay? And I'm going to see if I can draw a bird upside down so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle for my bird head like this. And then I think a body of our bird kind of looks like a half circle, maybe. How does that look to you? Does that look good? And then maybe a little triangle for a nose, for our beak. And then I think that looks pretty good, actually. So then what you might want to do is give it a more rounded, more bird-like feel. But actually, maybe this is making it look worse than it needs to be. And I'm not worried about the wings, the looking of the wings or anything, or the tail, if you wanted to add a tail, because this is supposed to be just simple, okay? And we're going to slot things, construct things together. So, using my giant pair of scissors, oink, 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 and also, as always, I know that the microphone might be picking this up very loudly, so apologies. So I'm just going to cut that out. You might have a thinner card, which might be a little bit easier to cut than this, or maybe get somebody else to do the cutting for you. Have a lovely assistant there to give you a hand while you do this. I quite like this packaging because it's kind of not too thick. So there we are, my very rough, quick one. You can take a lot more time. So what I said is, let's think about a tail. So I'm going to slot the tail in like this. So I'm just going to cut a tiny little slot like that. Right, just like that. And then I'm going to make my tail. So do we want a big tail, small tail, medium-sized tail? I'm just going to freehand. Right, will I do it upside down again? So I'm going to have a big tail like that. I would recommend having a little bit of space at the bottom there, so that when you cut the slot, it's not too narrow like that. So I'm going to cut the slot like that. said, very, very rough. And then I'm going to cut the slot going in again like this. Now, if you are planning on decorating your bird, it won't matter too much that you can see all of these like little jotted out lines if you're going to decorate it, paint it or collage it or whatever you want to do. So as you can see, there we go, we've started that. You might, where you put your lines will make a difference on if your tail is up. So if you might want to put the slots on like that, or if it's a very sad bird, maybe it's sitting on a branch like that. That kind of says to me, happy bird having a feed. This one says to me, sitting on a branch and having maybe a little song or a whistle. And this one to me says in flight mode. Okay, so then the wings. Wings, same again, but all you're going to do is you're going to cut a slot across the top here and thread the wings through, if that makes sense. If that is a little bit too tricky for you, then you could make 2 wings and stick them onto the side. Okay, so one of our wings might be like... so if we were doing the slotted version, I would fold the card in half. I'm thinking about 2 ways, which is why my brain's going tick, 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 tick at the moment. Oh, so I find that if you do it this way, you can cut the wings out the same on both sides. So you don't have to think about whether they're right or left-handed, if you know what I mean. So my wings are going to come out and then they might come down. And if your slot is quite small, you have to make sure that you can get all of this bigger part through that slot. So that's one thing to take into consideration. I hope that makes sense. So if my slot is very, very small, it's going to be very tricky to get this distance here and here through that little slot. So maybe your slot is the same size as the longest part of your wing so you can get it all in. Does that make sense? So you can cut that out. If your card is quite thick, what you could do is you could cut one out at a time and then draw round the other one. Okay, so see what I've done is I've cut that out there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw around our first wing, like so. So they're roughly the same shape on both sides, left and right. So then what you would do is, I don't actually have a knife here, but you could very carefully, I would use a scalpel or a sharp blade for this to cut a hole. Maybe draw how big you need it to be. So I know my slot needs to be that big. So maybe you use that as a guide. So I know I need to make my slot as big as that part there. And then you slot your wing in. And then there are different ways. If you wanted to, you could, for your bird, you could make it hang. So it might hang somewhere nicely. And that would be lovely if you were to maybe come together with all of your pals, maybe you're in your school and hang all your birds in one place in school. Bring the community of birds, the flock of birds together. I'm not going to try and slot this in because I'm very conscious of time, and I would like you guys to enjoy the video rather than sitting watching me fiddle around trying to slot that card in. But you can see it started to go through there. So there are different ways that you can, once you've decorated your bird, or maybe you quite like those kind of sketch drawings, maybe that's your style and that's your thing, or you could collage it, like I said, so cover it in a bit of glue, and then stick things on. Maybe it's images out of a newspaper, or maybe there's tissue paper you might have, or other papery type of things, or paint or pencils or whatever you want. So that's the design of the bird is completely up to you. Maybe you want to think about birds that are in our natural habitat, like robins and sparrows and starlings and magpies and blue tits and wagtails. I'm sure there's millions more, but that was pretty good going for a bit of a run of different birds. Or maybe you want to make up your own very own bird. So maybe it's a very tropical bird that nobody's discovered yet. If you wanted to make it hang, I would recommend putting a little hole in around here. And this is really good for kind of science and figuring out things and how they might balance. So I would tie in a piece of string almost tie one end in here, one end into the hole here, and then one here. But you'll be able to feel it balance on that when you're doing that. Or if you wanted to, you could do one central string, but if your tail is very long, it might end up looking like it's shooting up to the sky. Or if your head is very big, it might end up looking like it's taking a dive bomb down to the ground. But these are all like part of the process, right? Or if you didn't want to have it hanging, maybe what you could do is you could attach it onto a branch or something. So maybe you have, you sellotape a peg to it and you clip that onto a tree or something like that, and you have that to decorate in, to have that in and around where you live, or maybe you take it into school or something. Some other very, very quick ideas. So if you didn't want to do the flat cardboard construction with a few pieces, what you could do is you could use a toilet roll for the body. Same again with the wings, you could attach it on and create your bird like that. Or you might want to use a bottle. You could fill the bottle inside with something really nice. You could build up a head on that by scrunching up newspaper and using a masking tape, because then you can still paint the masking tape because it doesn't have a shiny surface. I'm going to move swiftly. I'm going to tidy this mess away, and then I'm going to move swiftly into the next part of our taking flight video, which is going to be all around nest making, because our birds need to have a habitat to live in. Now I have a little bit of a tidier area. So now I'm thinking about where birds live. And I don't know if you've noticed, with hardly any leaves on the trees, it's really easy to spot the birds' nests up in the trees. And this is something I'm amazed by, the construction that these bird nests can go into. Now I have a couple of suggestions here. You might want to make a bird nest for the bird you've just created, or you might want to envisage that you're a bird and you might want to create a nest from things that you have around you, like cushions and covers and duvets, and create a little nest. Maybe you want to do your homework in it, or decide that you're going to have a whole day learning inside the nest. When I was out and about, I was thinking about bird nests and what they use to create their own nests. And one thing that I couldn't get out of my head, which is a little bit, I'm not sure how I would feel about it, but they sometimes use hair, like hair from sheep that they might find on, they might have caught on some barbed wire out in the field, or maybe hair from humans. So maybe you have a hairbrush, or somebody does around you, that you might use the hair for the nest, because it's quite soft, it's quite warm, it's also very, very strong. I was thinking about moss and how this has a lot of things that might be living in it, and actually living in this particular bundle of moss that I borrowed from nature was the tiniest little snail that I almost mistook for a slug. I'm not a big fan of slugs. So I started thinking about this bowl being a lovely bird nest shape, and that maybe the moss inside would be perfect for it. Maybe you could make a nest. Now this is made out of cardboard, so it will go to mush eventually and biodegrade, whereas a plastic bowl may not. So these are things to kind of be conscious of if you're thinking about giving your nest creation as an offering to a real life bird out in the wilderness. So that's things to think about. What I also thought about, things that are soft. So like this wool might be soft. So that might be something else that might be nice for our nest creation, maybe as a little blanket afterwards. So maybe that goes in as well. There's obviously so much there, you wouldn't need all of that. And maybe you want to mix it together a little bit more. But I am just going to put these things in for starting points, for ideas from you. So when you obviously looking at the nests around in the world before all the green leaves come back in, there's this kind of woven construction around nests as well, and that is amazing. A bit like how amazing spider webs are, and how they create something so strong, a structure that is so strong from a web. So I was thinking about, with the collection of sticks that I have here, that you could pop them in to your bowl or whatever that might be. That was a beautiful cracking sound there. I enjoyed that. And maybe you pop them in. You could even glue them in. You probably might need something like, or even you could glue them to the outside if you have a very strong glue gun, or you might stick them to the inside, maybe with a bit of that masking tape. And maybe you could do the sticks all the way around and then use a fibre or a piece of fabric or shredded fabric and do a weaving. So a little bit like the bird nests might have been made. So what I mean by that is if I had one more stick, oh, let's snap that one as well. Oh, there we go. So we've got 4 bits now on my nest, like so. And then you could do a weaving. So tie it onto your first one like this, and then take it behind and then over and behind and over until you've gone all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, building up that nest. And not only would it look pretty cool, it's like a penthouse apartment for a bird, but it will also kind of have a beautiful rhythm of being able to go in and out and in and out. And I really like weaving for that purpose. So you could also, if you wanted to do some weaving with paper and card, you could shred the newspaper up as well and just give it like loads of bedding, almost like a little hamster or a guinea pig might have bedding made out of newspaper that's been shredded. So give some of those ideas a go, and while you're thinking about it, are you making a nest for yourself? Maybe you use this idea, but you go massive. How are you going to do that? That sounds really interesting, and I'd love to know. Or maybe you're going to make a little bird's nest for your bird that you created just before, or maybe you're going to make a bird nest as an offering to a real bird, maybe out in the parkland. But just be conscious if you're going to be popping it outside, that the materials you use aren't going to affect the animals or the wilderness in any way. So I'm kind of thinking maybe steer away from plastic items for that. Anyway, I'm going to clear away this one, and we're going to move into the next part 3 of our making, which is going to be all about creating wings. Okay, so gone is the nest and gone is the bird, and now here we are with some more cardboard. I love cardboard. It is diverse, it's really easy to use, you can stick it together nice and easily, you can paint it, you can collage it, you can stack it up, you can slot it. It's just so diverse and brilliant. So for this one, I thought, well, it's all well and good making a bird, making a nest with a bird, but what about if you want to be a bird? And I love dressing up and I love making things to wear. So I am making a suggestion now that you could create your very own bird wings. So much like we did with the creating a bird, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to show you how to do some very simple wings, construction for wings, and then you can watch this video for a short minute and then see what comes up for you guys. So if I think about a bird wing, I think it comes in, so if I think about the shoulder blades, and it comes out then to the big part, and when I do things, I really like to use all of the cardboard, all of the space, and these are just going to be short wings that you might be able to do bigger if you've got nice big pieces of card. I know I have a lot of card at the moment, but I like this size. I feel like it's manageable. So that's my wing that I've created there. Yours, like I said, yours might be much better. I'm actually going to make this like a more rounded, sorry, I should show you that, more rounded edge here, like so. And then I am going to cut that out. So I've done one wing, okay? Very, very quickly. Obviously, you don't need to watch me cut this out, but you get the idea. Just going to do a few slots. So imagine with your lovely brains that you have cut this out. This is cut out all the way around, and now you're going to draw around it. So you have 2 wings that are similar. Maybe you are a wonky bird and you want one style and one another style. Maybe you want to be half bat and half eagle or something like that. So you're going to draw it round again, cut it out again. Okay, blah, 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 you get the idea. Cut it out again, so you've got 2 parts. And then we are going to attach our wings on to, you can see I'm figuring this out in my brain, onto our arms. So you're going to hold on to them a bit like a kind of shield style thing. And this is where my elbow is going to be, because that is where the shoulder blades might be. Now, if you're really advanced and you love this idea and you want to take it to the next level, which I challenge you to do so, and yes, do it, is maybe you could do a part of your wing for this and then another one here. So you do have almost like the bones of a bird, like they have, I think they almost have like a sort of hinge maybe here as well, a little bit like we do. So you might do one part here, and then draw that and mimic it on the other side. Does that make sense? So like I said, doing the drawing, but I'm not going to do that because I want you to hold your attention on this. So you do what feels good for you. So cut out your other side, and then in order to get it onto our body, to get it to stick to the body, cut some strips out of your card, okay? Like so. Beautiful scissor sounds there. And then you are going to use it, you can almost use it like to fix it around your arm. And like I said, this is very simple construction, but it's good to have a nice simple starting point, and then with the decorations and the add-ons and stuff, you can make it really, really elaborate. So you're going to stick it, say that one's going to go there, so you'll stick it down. Make sure you've got two little bits like that. So your arm will go in there, like that. And then you'll stick those two bits. You need two of those. So one up this end, and you need to have that so you can hold it like this. And then another one there. So it stays really nice on your arm. And then you'll be able to flap up and down like so. All right. Now, one other lovely thing, if you wanted to, you could cut out little feathers, shapes from paper and glue them down. And the way that you could do that, let's try and show you very, very quickly, because that's a great idea. I love it. And this is what happens when you do things like this. So I've just got a scrap piece of paper here. So I love folding things in half so they get the same. So we've got what is our shape of our feather is like kind of like a long oval, maybe a half, kind of like that. So that's what it looks like when I've opened it up, almost like a leaf. And then you can just cut down like that, glue down the middle of your feather, and then almost kind of like ruffle these up so they really look like feathers. And if you had a good few of those stuck to your wing, ta-da! You can see even just one, you can get the idea from that, can't you? And I've made a pair of wings like this before, is I put little tiny holes in and then threaded through little scrap bits of ribbon, or so when you move, you get this lovely movement after you, almost like you're dancing with them. So one question I would like you to think of while you're creating and making your bird wings is, why can't we fly? Why can human beings not fly? Answers on a postcard. I'll let you into a secret. It's because bird bones have lots and lots of little holes in them, which makes them a lot lighter than us. So yeah, that would be my superhuman power. If I could have any, it would be to fly. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it at that, and we're going to move swiftly on to the last part of our video. And this is going to be all about map making and imagining that we're birds flying above, and what can we see. All right, talk to you shortly. I'm going to clear this away again, and we'll be back in 1 minute. Hello and welcome back. Again, I know it feels like seconds since we last saw each other. So I, this is all part of the story, whilst making the bird who lives in a nest and thinking about trees and how birds manage to fly, and creating a nest and creating our own wings that we can imagine that we are birds taking flight. I was thinking about what it would be like to be a bird and to see the world from a bird's eye view. So I would like to make a suggestion, and I know that sometimes making maps might not seem like the funnest thing in the world, but it doesn't have to be to scale, it doesn't have to be perfect, it could be something from your imagination, or it could be what you imagine the world to look like from up in the sky if you were up there flying. Or maybe you have a little look on the internet and see what your local area is like and what it looks like through maps that way. Or maybe it's somewhere you really, really love to go. So if it's maybe the forest where you went and collected your materials, or your local park or something like that, imagine what that might look like to a bird. So maybe you're sitting in your bird nest and you're looking down at the ground and you can see flowers, and you can see people playing football, and you can see somebody on a bike, maybe somebody going for a jog, or maybe it's just peaceful green and trees and what they might look like from the top. So using shapes to be able to represent those different things. So I kept the feather that was made for our bird wings, and I'm also going to use my favorite thing, cardboard again. So I very roughly cut it out. The reason I'm using cardboard again is because it's a nice sturdy back on it, and I'm also going to use Pritt Stick to glue things down with. So I'm just going to throw some ideas out there, and then you're going to run with it and create your own things. I'm not going to spend too long doing this, but I have picked other things as well that have beautiful either colour or texture. So I've got a little bit of plastic netting there. You might find something unusual as well. That packaging I really, really like. And then this, which is really unusual. When I was actually looking at it, I was like, look at these lines that are going through. They're like dotted lines, almost like tractor tracks or something. But then I realised it was actually a tube, and sorry for the crinkliness, but I could actually put my hands inside it, and I was like, oh my word, it's a ready-made wing all ready to go. So isn't that amazing? Literally just discovered that a minute ago. Yeah, this was out of packaging. So keep your beady eyes out for any cool packaging that you might not have to cut out anything, and you could just paint it and add bits too. Job done. I only have one of them, so I'm a one-winged bird. But I really love the kind of the browns and the packaging and the natural vibes as well. And maybe you want to make your map and you might want to use some of your natural materials that you collected. So maybe you might want to stick in a little bit of your moss onto your image, and maybe a stick as well, which could, you could paint the sticks as well. And this could represent a river. Or it could represent maybe a bridge. Or maybe you're going to get really advanced and you're going to actually build it up so things are coming out. So maybe you build a tree that comes out and you stick your moss on top and you've got a tree like that. So you're making it a 3D construction as well. But I'm going to keep mine really simple. What did I do with my scissors? Isn't this always the way? Miles away. There they are. So I really like shapes. So I really like circles, and that might represent what a tree looks like from the top, like that. I might put this down, and you might find that, and I always find this, when you are cutting bits, your like little bits that you cut off, don't throw them away. No, because they're very, very useful. This might work out to be something, you might be like, oh, I could do with a really tiny little triangle. And that might work really nicely for something else. And like I said, with this, I was like, actually, that's really quite a nice shape. And that could represent something. Like maybe, I don't know, an oval in a park grounds or something. And also by layering, let me see, by layering and sticking, you might end up with this like almost really cool abstract image. And if you told somebody that that's what somewhere looks like, nobody can argue with you because you created it. All right, so there's no wrongs or rights to this, and I want you to feel as free and inspired as you want to. And like I said, it could be from an imagination as well. So no one's going to get you to say, here, let me look at that map of wherever you might live and let's see if it really does work like that. Maybe you do, just thinking about where you live, that might be somewhere that you might want to represent in a map. You might cut out lots of little card squares because maybe buildings from above look like squares, and you could have lots and lots of those in rows. Put down as well. Maybe you want to make a little car or make a little road or something, and you could do drawing as well as adding on like collage and pieces and using shape and that kind of thing. So I hope now that you have enjoyed the map making. I just love that, as it is. I think that's a really nice image, just like that, and so simple. I haven't stuck it down, obviously. And then even incorporating, so we're really bringing together and combining our natural materials with ones that we've found in our own habitats at home. So thank you so much for joining me for creating a map, creating a nest, creating bird wings and creating our birds. So if you would like to share any of your makings and creations with us, we would love to see what you did, and particularly if you decided to bring all your creations, all your bird makings together back in school. You can email the Environmental Awareness section in Dunleary, Raddown County Council, and the email address, which I'm going to verbally give you now, but it'll also be at the end of the video, is envaware, that's ENVAWARE at DLRcoco.ie. So let me do that again, envaware at DLRcoco.ie. And if you pop into the subject heading of the video, of the email of your creations, taking flight video, and then we know exactly where they're coming from and what they were inspired by. So thank you so much for joining me, Jo, Recreate Ireland and Dunleary Raddown County Council for this video, Taking Flight. We hope you enjoyed it and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.